It's been more than 8 years in the making. I'm Donna Deegan, and today we celebrate 100 episodes of Making Moves.
Hello everyone, I'm Joyce Morgan Danford. Welcome to the very first JTA Making Moves television show.
That's how it all started back in January 2008 with the very first episode of Making Moves. Hello and welcome to our milestone 100th episode of the show. I'm Donna Deegan. During today's show, we'll be looking back at some of the great moments during the past 8 years. We'll unveil our selection as the top story of the first 100 episodes, and we'll talk with some of the people who have made this show possible, including this guy right here. Now, he's the creator and executive producer of Making Moves, Bill Milnes. And Bill, I know this is such a proud day for you. Take us back to the beginning of how all this started.
Well, it is a very proud day, and it started way back in 2007, if you can believe that. I can barely believe it, to be honest. Then CEO Michael Blaylock wanted to have a television show. He felt that the JTA story wasn't being told in the local media, and unless there was a real reason, a specific event, there was really no need to do that. And so he wanted a vehicle to, to kind of tell some of the JTA stories. And I was on staff at the time, had a television background, and he said, create me a show. And then he reached out to Joyce Morgan, who was a longtime news anchor in the market, and off we went.
JTA played a vital role during 2 local emergencies and a recent 2-week stretch.
Within a block of this historic intersection, you'll find more than a dozen restaurants.
The amount of building that's happened in Riverside, parking is definitely at a premium right now.
As the authority continues to study the feasibility of bringing streetcars to Jacksonville, it is also actively looking at innovative ways to pay for it.
But if you can't get the cargo away from the terminals, if you can't get the cargo to the terminals, then you're dead.
Unfortunately, none of us who make the decision are transportation dependent.
And that means this hurricane season could see a spike in demand for human services.
Expect to see more people in shelters. Perhaps they can't afford hotels.
So back in 2005, the JTA proposed a way to add hundreds more bus shelters to the area at absolutely no cost to the taxpayers. It came in the way of bus shelter advertising. A contracted shelter company would build a specified number of new shelters and maintain them on a regular basis. They offset the cost by selling advertising on the shelters.
Because it's good for Northeast Florida. And it's not just Duval, it's Duval, it is Clay, it is Baker, it is St. John's. Transportation is one of the key issues, as we all know.
Commuter rail allows us to extend beyond the Duval County lines, include some of our outlying counties like Clay County and St. Johns County.
We have to move into the next century, and the way we do that largely, I think, is dependent upon transportation and those things surrounding the issues of transportation.
You have construction workers standing close to travel lanes. You have large trucks moving in and out of travel lanes, so you need to slow down.
She pedals about 2 miles to the Marvin Park and Ride facility. She parks her bike, and around 7:30, she's on her first bus, the CT1, where she prepares mentally for her day.
In the past 30 years, the JTA has only raised its bus fares 3 times. In 1982, fares went up a dime from 50 to 60 cents. The JTA then kept fares at that price for 16 years, before finally increasing the fare to 75 cents. It was then nearly a decade before the authority asked riders to dig a little deeper to ride the bus.
Well, ironically, it was someone as a known railroader who helped start the streetcars in Jacksonville. That's Henry Plant.
I'm Terry Casey at the Landing. Coming up, for most of us, getting on a trolley or a bus, well, we take it for granted. But for one woman, she has to take it as a mobility lifeline. You'll meet her.
We're headed to the ballgame because we got a great deal. Just $30 a month, the summer youth pass is a steal. With my summer youth pass, I see the songs for free. Every Wednesday
Customers at the Rosa Parks Transit Station downtown were treated to JTA goodie bags, as well as some cold beverages and snacks.
And it's very simple. It's a business decision. If you're going to compete globally, then you have to have infrastructure. You have to have roads and bridges, rail systems, whether it's public or private.
This year marks a quarter century the Skyway has been moving people through downtown Jacksonville. It's more popular than ever. Riders take more than 1 million trips a year and growing.
Bill Nesper, with a powerful national bike safety organization, was called in to help the city become bicycle friendly.
According to the statistics, Jacksonville isn't a bicycle friendly place.
The stats in a report by Smart Growth America put Jacksonville as third most dangerous city in the U.S., behind Orlando and Tampa Bay, but ahead of the Miami area.
She said, of course, we'd love nothing better than to just have it the way that it was. But if you can't do that...
We have it come at set intervals, certain times of the day. Residents can change their schedules accordingly.
From December 5th to December 18th, JTA's team of investigators and planners worked to implement Green's plan.
Don't miss the next Making Moves as we partner with HBO's Real Sports with Brian Gumbel for Bike Wars.
In our major cities across this country, a nasty battle has been brewing.
I have the right of way, I'm going straight.
Environmentally, natural gas is the cleanest fuel around. It's much cleaner than gasoline or diesel.
I don't really know how you can do better than you did in 2015, the most transformative year that JTA has ever had since it's been providing transit. I mean, truly a transformative year. I mean, what have you learned from that?
Few things. One thing is that the team of individuals we have here at the JTA are, I think, best in class.
Well, that was incredible. Such a wide variety of stories over the years. So what was the reaction, Bill, when the show first got started?
Unfortunately, crickets. there really wasn't much of a reaction. Nobody really knew what Making Moves was at that point. And it took a little while for us to get our footing. When we first started, we weren't sure that we were going to have enough content to even do a show on a regular basis, but we found out that there were enough stories out there, and then finally we found that audience, and the audience found us, and off we went. Yeah,
when you think about it, you talk about a transportation show, not the sexiest thing in the world.
That's definitely true. There's nothing really sexy about transportation, but it certainly is important to the community.
Well, of course, and the key to it was you find a way to tell the people stories that really make people understand why this is valuable to people. It's more than just understanding the nuts and bolts of how the JTA works. It's really, why is this important to you in your life, and it is important.
And I think when you talk about people stories, one of the ones that we'll see a little later on is our selection for the top story of the first 100 episodes.
Oh my gosh!
It really speaks to the people and the humanity of what we do and what transportation is about and how it affects everybody in some way. I mean, whether you take public transit or whether you ride on a road that the JTA has built, everybody has been affected by transportation, but you'll really see it in this story coming up.
And I will tell you, get the tissues ready, because there's not a time that I've seen this story where it didn't bring me to tears. Great stuff. And of course, Joyce Morgan, a big part of the show when we first got started with it for many years, and you got a chance to sit down with Joyce to talk about a lot of the early days, and we're going to talk early days Making Moves. Let's take a look.
For 6 years, Joyce Morgan was the anchor and reporter for Making Moves. More importantly, she was the face of the franchise in its infancy and helped it grow into a valuable source of information for the Jacksonville community and a history-making piece of local television.
And I remember when we went on the air the first time, we were charting a path in territory that had never been charted before, if you think about it. No one had ever really done a full-fledged show on transportation.
Morgan says she's extremely proud of her time at Making Moves and having the opportunity to tell stories that weren't being told anywhere else. Like a 92-year-old Arlington woman who used JTA to get around town.
She stopped driving in her 80s. She was from Arlington, that's right. And she would take the Arlington shuttle. And the reason she would take the Arlington shuttle was because it gave her a sense of independence. So those were the kind of stories that we were telling.
As the success of Making Moves continues with each new season, with more people watching now than ever before, Joyce points to the solid foundation built from the show's early days.
After all these years, we became an award-winning show. That meant a lot because it said that all of those things that we had done in the early years really worked. They meant a lot. They meant as much to people who were watching as it meant to us.
Well, Joyce Morgan was the face of Making Moves for nearly 6 years, but while she says she misses all of us here on the show, she couldn't be happier serving the citizens of Arlington in District 1 as their councilwoman, and it was great to catch up with Joyce and talk about those early shows.
What will be the top Making Moves story of our first 100 episodes? Like I said, break out the tissues. We'll find out after the break.
Blake running to the left now, stays behind the line, fires toward the end zone, wants Allen Hurns, diving attempt!
Football season is here, and there's only one place you can hear Jaguars football. 1010XL 92.5 FM, the official radio station of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Touchdown, Jacksonville!
Welcome back to the Making Moves 100th episode special. 9 years ago, then JTA CEO Michael Blaylock had the idea to create a TV show to tell the story of the JTA on a regular basis. He enlisted this guy to do that, and from that, Making Moves was born.
True enough. And before he retired from JTA, I had a chance to sit down with Michael Blaylock to talk about the show and its legacy to that point. Take a look. Let's talk about Making Moves. 5 years ago, you had this idea. You wanted to get more information out to the public. Why was that so important to you?
To start educating the public about transportation options and what we're planning now, what we're planning for the future. And then trying to raise the level of consciousness of just how important transportation is to our economic vitality of this community.
5 years later, is it what you expected?
Exceeded my expectations. I had no idea that you would have had at this point in time over 1 million viewers that has tuned in to see this show. Everywhere I go, people stopping me and saying that, in fact, I just saw a gentleman the other day, he and his wife actually planned their time to watch the show.
Now, Nat Ford replaced Michael Blaylock in December of 2012, and one of the first things he did when he got here was renew this show. So he's been an important contributor ever since.
He has. He's not as often on the show with us, but he has certainly been incredibly supportive of all the work we do, and he's been a great addition, certainly, to the JTA.
No question.
No question about it. Over the years, Making Moves has informed this community about some of the most important transportation stories of the past decade. And since most cities don't have anything like Making Moves, the transportation industry took notice right away. The show has won several awards on both the state and national level.
True enough. In our 8 years, we've won 2 national awards, including a grand prize from the American Public Transportation Association and 5 other awards from Florida's Public Transportation Associations. And, that recognition is great. In the television world, it's very validating. But I think one of the most important things is to see the ratings climb, because as the ratings go up, that means more people are watching and they're getting that information, which is the whole reason that we did this show. Yep. And that made everything worthwhile.
Absolutely. Well, we can't do a show like this without any number of experts explaining what can sometimes be very complex plans and ideas to the public. And over the years, we've literally had hundreds of people appearing as guests on our show. Here's a look at just some of them. If you've watched any of our recent shows, you've seen us feature some of the best stories of our first 100 episodes. Well, now it's time to unveil what we've selected as the best of the best. It's a story by senior correspondent Terry Casey and videographer Mick Richards that we call The Original 8.
And it's a story, really, Donna, that goes back decades to an era when Jacksonville was still dealing with some civil rights issues, and being a black bus driver was an unthinkable profession. And then came The Original 8, who really changed everything. Here's how it looked when the story first aired back in April of 2013.
Hemming Plaza, downtown Jacksonville, where you can take a walk, catch a ride on the Skyway, or just sit down and relax. But in 1960, this place had a different feel. Change was in the air. So was violence. Members of the NAACP Youth Council then, many of them teenagers, held peaceful demonstrations at segregated white downtown lunch counters. Simmering tensions exploded on August 27th. A mob of some 200 whites with axe handles and baseball bats attacked the young protesters. Amos Ely, he's 79, remembers like it was yesterday.
They didn't just hit the sit-ins and the people like that. They hit the little lady that's coming from cleaning the lady's house and the janitor that's coming out of the thing. They didn't discriminate. If you was black, they beat you.
Somebody called it Axe Handle Saturday. The name stuck.
Axe Handle Saturday was just what I call a final act to put us colored people back in our place. But it was the one that straw that broke the camel's back.
Jacksonville historian Emily Liska.
After that point, there was movement by the city and moreover by the citizens of this city. There had to be a change.
It was common for guys our age to be called a nigger. And I guess people my age, we got used to that.
Amos was 26 then. Things were tough.
I was shining shoes. That's what I did for a living.
And waited for change to come.
Changes did come, and changes in hiring came.
The Jacksonville Coach Company ran buses back then. It was privately owned and situated here along Riverside Avenue. The company hired 8 black men, demanding they meet nearly impossible standards. Then, in almost spy-like secrecy, began to train them how to drive a bus.
All good things for black people in the South started on a bus.
With civil rights icon Rosa Parks in Montgomery, Alabama, when she refused to move to the back of a bus in December 1955. 5 years later, almost to the day, Amos Ely and 7 other men seated in the front drove into history. They were Jacksonville's first black bus drivers. But back then, Amos didn't give history much thought.
If you ask me, did I go in thinking that? No. You're just a bus driver.
All he knew was, for the first time, he had a job, a real one.
I had never made $100 in 1 week. I could work all day, which I did because it was me, it was something I loved, and make any amount of money you want to make. I had never been in that situation. So you hear people talking about, what did they do to you on the bus? I said, I got called the same thing on the bus that I got called off the bus. But I was carrying on $20 to $25 per day.
It was scary from the start. Amos used to live in this area between Jackson and Stonewall Streets when threats and fear forced him out of his home.
I had to move from there when we became bus drivers because that was too hard on my family because they knew they would have got bombed.
The drivers had to deal every day with threats and the venom of verbal attacks spewed, Amos says, by whites and blacks.
It was hostile. But in my age bracket, what some people now would call hostility was the norm. I've been called a nigger on the bus without a job. I was called a nigger on the bus with a job.
At work, they dealt with segregation.
We wasn't in the room, the driver's room with the white guys, but we made the same salary.
They also made surprise discoveries.
There was ignorance on both sides, and I thought all white people could read. They thought all black people couldn't read.
The Jacksonville Coach Company eventually went out of business. And in 1971, the agency that is now the Jacksonville Transportation Authority took over all of the public transit operations in the city. And Amos Ely, well, he just kept on driving.
The thing I like most about driving was Thursdays, payday.
Amos retired from JTA after 36 years behind the wheel.
I think it's one of the saddest days. Got in my car, drove to the gate of the bus company, and sat and watched and cried.
Amos and the others made history. There's no question they paid the price. But was it worth it?
Yes. 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 It's a star in your crown that you didn't even expect.
In Jacksonville, Terry Casey for Making Moves.
Well, joining us now is senior correspondent Terry Casey. What a great story that was. It's so emotional.
It was.
It truly, I mean, what an amazing gentleman. He just spoke completely from his heart.
He certainly did, and he was so gracious about it. He put himself out there.
He did.
And it touched our hearts. And I think that, speaking for Mick, both of us came away from that interview and the whole process of writing the story, of putting the whole thing together and then seeing the final product. But to begin with, we came away knowing that we had something important that told a story of Jacksonville, a story of the JTA, and certainly a story of one of the 8, Amos Ely, who made it very, very personal.
So we will look forward to more of your stories, Terry, as we continue out throughout season 9. Can you believe it? Season 9. But don't go anywhere, everybody. Reporters Eugene Lindsay and Carell Danzy are going to join us next for a final look back at our first 100 episodes.
Don't be a distracted driving casualty. Keep your cell phone in your pocket.
Okay, everybody, welcome back, and we are joined now by the rest of our fabulous reporting staff. We have Carell Danzy and Eugene Lindsay here with us. What are you laughing about? Why is that funny?
Fabulous reporting cast, huh? We'll take it.
Well, I thought it was a compliment. Perhaps it was not. Eugene,
I think it was.
Eugene, let me start with you, if you can contain yourself here.
I don't know if you should.
Already giving me grief here. So you've been here the longest, and both as a reporter and a videographer. So give us your thoughts on these past years. I mean, what stands out for you about this program?
Well, I've been here about, I think, 6 years now. What stands out most to me is when I first started out going out just basically focusing on transportation issues, I was really surprised to hear from the community at large when they found out that JTA was, this involved in doing a transportation show and addressing the needs of people who use mass transit. And another thing is that when we got out into the communities, they were so surprised to hear that JTA was behind a lot of the community initiatives when it came to road improvements and things that were improving their community. And they were so excited about that, and they were, let me tell you, eager to lend their voice when we asked them questions about what they thought, what they needed, what they wanted, and that kind of thing, which kind of kept the ball rolling into all of these exciting things that you've seen happen with JTA over the years.
Okay, Carell, what about you? You've been here a little less time, 2 years, been here a couple years. What do you think? What are your favorite things about this show? What stands out for you?
I think for me,
I've come in a transitional period. So ROI kicked off pretty much the month after I got here. So understanding Jacksonville Transportation Authority, the system, the people, who rides, who wants to ride, who's interested, all of these different things. I think I came in at a unique time.
Boy, no kidding. Unique is a very kind word because it really, I mean, tumultuous, really.
And it was just, why are you changing it? And then on the other hand, it's like, oh, this is great. Yeah. Now I can go to work. I can work the late shift. It's interesting. And then for me to actually ride the system, and I thought it was important for me to understand what it was like, or what it is like for the riders, and just getting different perspectives.
You know, Terry, it's really been amazing to watch the transformation over the past couple of years of JTA, and really its involvement in terms of feedback from the community and all of the new things that have come in. I mean, it's amazing.
It's brought with it too something that touches all of us as well as all of the folks who use the JTA, and that is a wave of excitement. You can feel it and you can see it with all the advances that are going on, just what we're talking about too. That stuff doesn't just happen.
No.
It doesn't just materialize. It takes somebody with a degree of organization behind the scenes.
Because
and actually,
that's not me.
Well, and it's not me. The guy in charge of all that stuff, who in most instances says, hey, Eugene, I want you to cover this, or Carell, or Terry, or Donna, why don't you go out on the store? Bill Milnes, none other than Bill Milnes, the man you've seen on camera today, which is a rare appearance for him.
And he's not happy about it. Let's be honest.
Yes.
Okay.
We need to show the outtakes one day on that. So we look to him for that.
Yes.
And unknowingly, perhaps, you look to him for what comes out on this program. I mean, this guy wears so many hats, I've lost count.
He does a lot of work, and this show has really been his baby. That wraps up this special 100th episode of Making Moves. Thank you so much for joining us today and over the past 8 years. We have truly enjoyed bringing you the latest transportation news and information. We'll be back next month with a brand new show as we officially kick off Season 9. Can you believe it?
Show 101.
Show 101. Here we go. So for Nat Ford, Bill Milnes, and everybody here at Making Moves, I'm Donna Deegan.